Welcome to Sideline Sports, another great show this week. We got our regulars. We got George Jones down at the bottom. Got his nice Steeler jersey in the background. We're talking about jerseys before. We'll talk about that some more later. We got Jon Shearer up top and special guest Ozzie Guillen Jr. Make sure you check out Guillen Baseball. We brought in, one of the best minds in baseball outside of the game because we had to start off really quick tonight with Fernando Tatis Jr. and this 80-game suspension, which, hearing the stories now, so his dad saying it has to do with him having a bad haircut and getting ringworm, and the medication was on the banned substance list. So, Ozzie, I'm going to go to you first as the expert in baseball. How bad is this for the game, especially with Tatis being one of the bright young stars of baseball?
I don't think it's bad for the game. I think that people just need to realize that players make mistakes. Players are not always the brightest. And people are really that naive, okay? Meaning Tatis Jr. I think this is a lesson for all the players out there, okay? Because this is not 25 years ago where players didn't have the access to know what they can and cannot take. Okay, if you're a professional athlete, everything that you're consuming, legal, illegal, every lotion that you're taking, anything that you're putting in your body that might cause you a false positive or a negative test, you should get it cleared first with your team staff. There's a 1-800 number that you can call in Major League Baseball. You can be in a nightclub and somebody can tell you about a new drug and you can actually call and say, hey, can I take this drug? If this going to pop me off for a positive on a steroid test?
That's cool. I didn't need, none of us. I mean, JB, you probably didn't know that. I didn't know that. Sorry to interrupt you, but
because the list, people think that the list is FDA. It's FDA. It's not FDA. So if you look at the list for professional sports, it's not what the FDA. So they don't hold they don't hold it like to the standards that regular civilians are held at. The NFL, the NBA, MLB. There's stuff on there that if I can go right now into GNC and take something and I'm not going to get popped or get fired. They go and take that same substance and they're going to piss dirty. Like it's going to be deemed a drug and illegal. So I think that's the part where I think every athlete cannot be naive of believing a friend, a family member, hey, take this without going and talking to a professional first. That being said, especially him who grew up around the game of baseball, okay, because he is a junior. He grew up around the game. He knows every guy that's done it illegally. He knows all the guys that haven't been caught. He knows the guys that have been caught. So he knows the consequences. The part that upsets me and about all of the players that have done steroids, okay, is the fact that they come out and say, I am devastated. Why are you devastated? Just say it, hey, I made a mistake, okay, meaning I got caught. I didn't think I was going to get caught, and move on. Take your suspension. But don't sit here and say, "Oh, I'm devastated for this." Just wear it because the most affected party here is the team because he's not playing because they need him. They paid him all that money for him to be there, so now they're affected.
Do they need him?
I think they do. Well, I mean,
have you heard Mike Clevenger's comments?
Well, I think they might move him. That's a different story. Again,
did you hear Did you hear what Clevenger said though?
Oh, of course. And they're all pissed because they're like, you should have known better. And just like getting caught.
I mean, if Clevenger's saying like, hey, we went the whole year without him, we don't need him, paraphrasing, but he basically said, we don't need him. We've done fine with the guys we've had all year. Like that says so. Like, okay, so Ozzie, tell me.
Don't you have to say that though if you're a pro athlete?
No pro athlete is going to throw their own teammate under the bus and say we don't need him.
I don't think it's throwing him under the bus. I think he's saying that the team to win without him. You have to feel confident.
Yeah. No, you would say so. I would imagine you would say something like, it's been hard without him. We were looking forward to having him back. He didn't say anything like that. He basically said, we don't need this guy. We're perfectly fine without him. Like, you're not going to lose Tom Brady and say, yeah, we're perfectly fine without him. We've had Kyle Trask all year. You're not going to say that.
Well, John, I would say they would say that at New England because remember when Tom Brady when he sliced his hand at New England and Bill Belichick, like, why are y'all keep asking me questions about this? It ain't like this is he's a doctor and he's in there performing surgery. So basically, what he's saying is if Tom Brady hand is hurt, we gonna move on and go with the next guy.
Next man up is different than saying we don't need somebody. You know what I mean?
I think if the manager would have said that, I think Clevenger has not been there long enough himself. If Trevor Hoffman had said that, or Tony Gwynn, as a longtime Padres player, even Hosmer, who had been there, I would have said, "Oh wow, this has a big kind of like, this is a veteran guy making this comment." But it's Clevy. He just got there, got traded last year. Of course they've won games without him, but they're not in first place. They haven't beat the Dodgers.
Well, no, I mean nobody's going to beat the Dodgers.
Well, I'm just saying though, you need him to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah. You don't know the backstory between their relationship either, so they can have
correct.
So who knows that? But my standpoint from all this is, this guy's 23 years old. He just got paid, 14 years, $340 million 19 months ago, meaning he was 21 at the time. The drug that he took is a weak drug in itself. He didn't need that to help him with baseball, build muscles and all that. Most of the time when guys do steroids, they're doing it either to get the money or to stay healthy if they're injured and come back faster.
Correct. I believe that's why he took it, was to get back on the field faster. I don't think it's because he wants to hit home runs.
That drug doesn't do that. That drug is not specific.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that's typically why you do these things as a player, as an athlete, is to get back on the field as opposed to
But John, if it was HGH, I would say yes. I would agree with that. You're talking about a drug. The only property in that drug is it helps elevate your testosterone a little bit without the side effects of raising your estrogen level.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Guys with the gyno on their pets, that's because they took an enormous amount of testosterone and then their estrogen levels went up. This guy took a mild steroid that doesn't do any of that. So him taking that, if he got an injury to a shoulder or anything, that doesn't help him get back quickly. If it was HGH or something illegal like that, then I would say yes. The guy's got everything. He's young. He got his money. So I don't know why he would do that. And to have
that's
say about the ringworm, I mean, I think people will respect you more if you just come out and say, look, I was feeling pressure from the big contract. I was trying to get back as quickly as I could to help our team win. And I messed up. I'm sorry. Hopefully I can gain.
But that's what confuses me. I mean, if you're saying, because I'll be honest, I don't know much about this particular drug. Yeah. If you're saying that this drug wouldn't bring him back quicker.
No.
So there's no medical point to it. Could it be possible that it has something to do with a bad haircut? Maybe it's the truth. I don't know.
You know, John, JB, just as well as I know, everybody know, all four of us, when we was growing up, testosterone, that's the male hormone for all of us.
Right.
The more you got it, you're going to get stronger, bigger, all that. He 23 years old. He doesn't need that. His hormones are raging out of this world. So he didn't need that. So that's not going to help an injury, because if that's the case, JB, raising your testosterone, that means all these kids that get hurt in high school and things like that with their hormones raging, they should be coming back a lot quicker than they do. No. So I just think the guy made a mistake and he may have gotten bad advice from somebody.
That's my worry. That's my worry. I think that my worry is it might be the worm thing in the neck. Again, go to a doctor and find out and take something that's not going to make you test positive. It might have been a friend saying, hey, take this. It does X, Y, and Z, because his friend's dumb and did not know that this drug does not do X, Y, and Z. So now you're taking supplements without even going to a doctor. If you are going to juice the right way, go to a professional. Don't just go to the black market and do it. If you are going to go juice as a professional athlete, make sure that you do it safe, okay, so that you don't, die from it, so you can take enough that's just the right substance. That's okay. But that's my problem with Tatis, is that he got all this money right away, okay, which is fine. He never played for the money, which, again, it's their potential. They're saying, let's bank on this young. Yes. But he's starting to make decisions that are looking like down the road as like, I hope that he stops at one point and says, okay, let me stop making bad decisions. The dirt bike, the other situations. Now this. It's like he needs to get to a point of like, I'm not worried about him taking steroids if I was the owner. I'm like, I could care less. If anything, I'm mad at him because he took the wrong steroids. Like, if you're going to get caught for the good stuff. I'm worried about him about what's his circle, like who's around this kid. what advice is he getting? And is he really mature enough? Because right now you're making a bad decision about putting something in your neck. But is your next bad decision, you go to the club, you had too much to drink, and you think you're going to be able to drive? Okay, are you going to make a bad decision, carrying a weapon across an airport because you thought it was funny because, or some type of drug? Those types of moves are when we consider immature moves, a move that a child would make. That's what I think everyone's upset, that you should have known better. And I think they're even more upset because in the baseball world, they saw the drug that he was taking. And it's like, why are you testing positive for this? This has no relevance to anything that you're supposed to be doing. So from a point of, and that's why there's been Dominican players coming out saying Major League Baseball probably should have covered this up, okay, because it's an impact on a young player. You knew that he wasn't cheating. And that's what people don't understand. When guys like David Ortiz.
Let me follow that up, Ozzy, with the question. Let me follow up with a question. Okay. Do you think MLB did cover this up? Do you think they knew back, say he was cheating, he was doing this back in May or April? Do you think
they know 4 months before? They know.
Do you think
Major League
they
Baseball,
knew?
Yes.
And they're just sitting on it until he was ready to come back. That way he served a real suspension instead of sitting out while he was injured and not serving a real suspension. Does that make sense?
You gotta serve the suspension when you start active. So they gotta activate you to serve the suspension. So Major League Baseball, there's a protocol. So you get popped a couple of months before, you could appeal. And then you go to more drug testing, and then they look at the case and they say, because you could say, oh, I took something, it was a pill that I took from my wife.
They will go to
just go plead. Yeah, you got to go plead your case. So they've known, and that's why I think it's funny when they're like, oh, we didn't know. That's why we didn't know this, and that's why we went and got Soto. Oh, they knew for a while. They knew that suspension was coming through, and they said, okay, we need to go get help. We got to go get Soto because not only are we not knowing when he's going to come back now, but now this pushes back his baseball activity because now he cannot go back into team baseball activity until he's back from being healthy and his suspension is completed. So for them, it's like we might see Tatis at some point later in spring training. So they're saying we got to take care of this now because our job is to win games. So they've known for a while. Again, there's a whole protocol. But the issue that baseball has is saying, okay, if you knew that this guy wasn't cheating, why are you popping him? Again, that's something in the baseball world that people say, if you knew that it wasn't a substance that was supposed to make you better, why are you still, paying them? That's why marijuana now is not on the illegal drug because guys were getting popped for smoking a joint, okay, and taking, edibles. That's no longer the case. Again, they run a case on this specific drug. In 4 years, this drug might be legal. Okay, and Tatis got bent and he got pinged for it. But my whole thing is that he needs to be able to make better decisions. I think that's why everyone's disappointed in him, especially who he is. Like if he grew up around the game, okay, Tatis should know better. He grew up around the game. Everyone that grew up around the game when his dad played, you knew who was juicy. You knew what you had to take. That's a normal over this kitchen conversation about who was doing it, the rumors. So he should have known better. So that decision from him of being an adult, and I thought it was a big opportunity for him to say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm tired of making mistakes. I hope a better version of Tatis comes after this, and I can prove it with my actions, and that's it. No more drama, no more, we know you got busted. It was a dumb decision, but I hope that these dumb decisions end because usually when we do these 30 for 30s, these outside the lines, it's like 10 years from now, and it's like this guy who had all this talent, got all this money, and his career just went down the drain. And I can go a list of guys who I'm friends with, guys that I love and dear. I hope that he's not that case. I hope that he just gets to play his career and it's not derailed from, outside the field antics and situations that keep happening. If he gets injured, I hope it's on the field. If anything happens to him, it's on the field, not stuff off the field because he's a talented kid. And I really hope he gets to develop that talent. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to affect his image. I really don't care. I think it's just going to make if anything, players are not going to longer wear dreads because you might get ringworm in your neck from it. So don't get dreads.
Ozzy, just think about it. We got the number one player on the Arizona Cardinals right now is suspended because of PEDs. And you hear no one talk about it. At the end, the only time this will be brought up again if he's up for the Hall of Fame. Other than that, people are not going to talk about it anymore.
Well, that's because he didn't make the situation worse like Tatis and his dad are doing, but they just keep piling on themselves and they keep making it worse. Hopkins made his stupid statement where he's basically said, "Oh, I didn't know," the same spiel you always get, but he didn't make it worse like Tatis did.
John, you got to look at Senior and look at him. He's trying to protect his young son.
He's got to stop. He's just making it worse.
Yeah, I mean, from outside, yes, you think he's making it, but he looking at it in a way like, I'm his father. I've been around the game. I'm trying to help him, even though it may be wrong and it's hurting him. But most fathers do that, especially if they.
Well, here's the part though. He never denied. So here's a part that's very interesting about Tatis' father. He never denied that he did not take this substance. He just says that he took it for the ringworm on his neck, and he actually said that he should have known better of taking something without getting the right, people to tell him yes or no. So he's saying, yes, my son is guilty of this, but my son is not guilty that you're going to ruin his career thinking that he's taking something that's enhancing his performance. So he's going on the and again, I think that in today's world, which is really funny, everyone goes positive for steroids, and everyone just assumes that it's like, HGH or something. Like, that's why it's released what you took. No one, went online and looked up what this thing was. No one went online in the media world and said, hey, I haven't seen one ESPN or any of the big outlets say, ladies and gentlemen, this is what he took. These are the chemicals. This is what it actually does to you.
Because it's not a sexy story. The sexy story
correct.
Is he's a steroid user. Let's ban him. That's
correct.
the sexy story. That's what gets people to turn on. And it's a shame because, I didn't realize, until you guys pointed it out, because I don't be honest, I don't know much about steroids. I know the ban of 80 games is bad for the Padres, no matter what Clevenger says.
No playoffs. No playoffs for him this year. And it also extends into the regular season next year, which I also want to ask Ozzy how that affects what you can and can't do when it comes to the off-season activities. What can't Fernando Tatis Jr. do?
He can't be with a team. So
this affects more than just the 80 games, because this ruins.
It affects everything. It affects the front office,
the chemistry,
you start planning. Not chemistry, more like depth chart. People in baseball, they don't realize, they think about it in football. It's just like baseball. Football is just the same thing. There's a depth chart. I can go on an organization and say who's number 1, 2, and 3. So now someone's going to get bumped that they might have had plans for the future, might move them somewhere. Now you got to bump this person, probably get an option, maybe have to sign a free agent knowing that you might have to let him go later. So it becomes a financial situation. You start making roster moves and making decisions of saying, maybe you wanted to move Tatis at one point, but now other teams are like, oh, that's not sexy, because 3 weeks ago, if you called any team in Major League Baseball and said, I got Tatis on the market, what you got for me? His value signed at $300 million. Now teams are like, oh, I don't know. What do you know? Because now it's the what if. Oh, what do they know? Why are they putting him in the market? What's going on in Cleveland?
Right.
Well, Juan Soto could have been doing whatever, and we don't know. So
you don't know because
no. I meant you're not getting the Juan Soto price for Fernando Tatis anymore.
Well, and you got teammates making comments, and now you're saying, okay, is there a problem in San Diego? Okay, is Tatis a cancer? Can he be controlled? So now you create like a mini Antonio Brown where no one really knows the truth. You just hear all this. You just like a mythical character, and it's all like, do you want this guy on your team? So that's what you don't want for Tatis. So that dynamic changes. I hope that. I hope that they, obviously San Diego's going to do what they got to do on the field, but for him is like not break any more rules, stay in playing shape, because his job is to get back to playing. So make sure he surrounds himself around with the right group of people, doesn't, take this as a vacation going out, at 22 years old, very tempting to go out every night, have a great time. When you have that much money, just be on a yacht 24/7. I would do that. He needs to fight all those demons. Just come with the age. And just focus and say, hey, I got to focus on baseball because this is my career. That's the hard part, man. Extremely rich. The team cannot be around you. Are you disciplined enough to be able to maintain yourself? I'm not. I would have been done.
Think about how difficult this has to be. Okay, so this past offseason, he's not working with the team. He's injured. And then this whole season, he's not working with the team. He's injured. Then this whole next offseason, he's not going to be working with the team. And part of like 30-some games going into next year, he's not going to be working with the team. I mean, that's over a year and a half of not working with your guys at all and not playing baseball. Like, think about how much that affects you and your team whenever you eventually come back. Like, chemistry is very important in whatever you do. Or professional sports, chemistry is very important. And it takes a while to get the timing and all of that stuff back.
Well, I think being a young guy, he can redeem everything if he really wants to. We're going to know if baseball is important to him these next 80 games.
That's well said.
We're going to know this. We're going to see, because they'll probably have somebody training him, and that'll probably be all over social media, him getting ready to come back whenever he's available. And just like Ozzy said, like in the NFL, the protocol is, if you get popped with a positive test, they send you a letter and say, you can appeal it. Once you appeal it, you got to go in front of a judge and the other side. And they take your B sample. And if they find it in your B sample, then there's nothing else you could do. You go ahead and you got to serve your suspension. You're away from the team. You don't get paid the exact same way. But from the beginning of training camp and everything, they give you a book that has every drug on it that you cannot take, every drug. And the way the NFL works is, I don't care if you go in GNC and buy some protein powder. If it has something in it that's on this list, I don't care that it was a mistake or whatever, it's in your body. You made that mistake because you should have went through the team to get the protein powder instead of going to GNC. So it is hard sometimes. Like sometimes some of these guys do make mistakes and they go out and get something.
I can see how it can happen. I mean, it's real simple. You want to just work out and get a protein powder.
No.
You go into GNC, you buy it, you think you're simple, but no.
Yeah.
You want to make millions of dollars and play a professional sport. You gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta take a step back.
So here's the part where for you guys, when you're talking about chemistry,
John,
so the most important thing, John, and then George can attest this because he was a player. The most important thing when he gets back, okay, not the media, not the fans, he has to deal with his family on his side. And fans are going to hate this. Not the media, not the fans, not the front office. That's all irrelevant. He's got to go in that dugout and in that clubhouse and make sure that he is not full of it with his manager, his coaching staff, and most importantly, his teammates. Okay, because every guy had an opinion about him before. Now they have an opinion on top of that opinion. And guys might have not liked him. Now they really don't like him. Guys that might have liked him are now against the wall. Guys that are going to love him are always going to love him. But he's got to make sure that he goes into that clubhouse and everything that he says he is going to do, that he does, and he is an example by actions. Because the moment that he makes a false action and they find out that he's full of it, and his teammates will know if he's full of it, then that's when he becomes a huge problem. And that's when you have to start considering and saying, do we have to move this guy? Because he needs to gain their trust again, the teammates' trust and the manager's trust that this won't happen again. Because here's the part, man, when you're pulling for a championship, you know that every single piece of that puzzle is important. So you don't want to be pulling and then like in the middle of the year, something else happens. And you're like, dude, we need, like, you just can't just drop the boat and like leave all this on us. So that camaraderie, he needs to make sure that he gains that trust back from his teammates and his manager.
Also, I'm sorry, please.
Well, I would say I had a similar, I'm sorry, John. I had a similar situation in college. I got suspended for extra benefits, which is NIL right now, because I was working at this group home, but I was driving a car. So they said that I had extra benefits. So I ended up getting suspended. So I couldn't be around the team. I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't train with the team or do any of that. So I trained at night. When my roommates came home, they would tell me what was going on in practice. So I missed the beginning of the season. So the week that I came back was my first week of practice. And then we had a game. I ended up playing well. And the reason why we won that game is because of how well I played. He can do that same thing. I earned all my teammates' trust that night because I hadn't practiced in like a month, and I carried the ball 40 times without having all that training, and ended up helping us win the game. He can do the exact same thing. He can get himself back in superb shape, get healthy, come back, apologize to the team, go out there and play great baseball, and all this will be forgotten about. That's just sports in general. Winning cures everything. You winning, this will be forgotten about.
That's so I want to
segue into a story that I just read earlier today that I didn't hear about. So your dad, Ozzie Guillen, manager of the White Sox when they won the World Series, did a great job as the manager there. Now he's an analyst for NBC Sports Chicago. So we made a comment because the White Sox have been struggling this year that Tony La Russa is managing like Rick Renteria. So John Heyman from Sports Illustrated fired back at your dad, saying that he's angling for Tony's job. First of all, your dad should have a job. He did a great job as a manager. He won a World Series for the White Sox, which haven't won in 88 years before that. So obviously he did a great job. But your dad challenged him to a celebrity boxing match, which I think would be great. Get somebody for charity. And your dad just has a great personality. I've always been a fan. I tell the story about my interaction with your dad all the time. But tell us a little bit about the situation, and I'm sure you spoke to your dad, what he thinks about it and everything.
Oh, we talk about it. I was with him right next to it, and this Jon Heyman story goes long time. It actually goes to when Ozzie was the manager with the Marlins. Jon Heyman made comments about when Ozzie was a manager with the White Sox. He made comments when Ozzie was a manager with the Marlins. And he's made comments throughout the last 12 years. So it's a personal thing that Jon Heyman has with Ozzie. They've already exchanged words once in an All-Star game. Ozzie basically calling out Jon Heyman saying, "What's your problem with me?" Okay? So the problem that Ozzie had is because Ozzie's job is to do pre- and post-game show. And in Chicago, everyone's talked bad about Tony. They've called him a drunk. Every name in the book. And Ozzie has been one of the guys that stood from Tony on Tony's side from day one. They have a great relationship, okay? And then Jon Heyman has been on radio shows in Chicago where they've called Tony a drunk. They've called him names. He has never made a comment about anything. Ozzie makes the comment because the team was playing horrible, and he said, "You're better than this." It's like Rick Renteria, is back. And he's already told Tony this. Jon Heyman made the comment and rubbed Ozzie the wrong way, saying, "Why is this guy going out of his way who's not in Chicago? Okay, calling me out. This is definitely personal." So the only way that you can put your hands on somebody, because Jon Heyman will sue, okay, and you're not gonna sue. And this is where people need to Google Ozzie Guillen and where he's from. There's a moment in life where you're no longer a manager or a baseball player. You're just a dude. You're just a guy. And it gets to a point like Jon Heyman is what we call a habitual line stepper. Okay. He just constantly steps the habitual line. And he said, "You know what, John, let's just do this. You hate me. Obviously, I don't like you, but you got a personal problem with me. Let's just settle this. We'll do a 3-round, whatever, how many rounds you want. We can do boxing or MMA, and we'll raise money for charity." He replied right away, "Absolutely not. I'll donate $500 to whatever charity you want." And I said, "Okay, so why are you running your mouth?" So it's like, well, and the problem is that people understand Ozzie's in the media. Ozzie's job is to critique, talk, and do that. So guys like Jon Heyman get on Ozzie, but Ozzie's the type of person, man, that Ozzie is just Ozzie. Where he comes from, that's never going to leave him. It's made him successful. It helps him be successful as a man. It's just who he is. So, and guys like Jon Heyman want Ozzie to go around and beg for a job. They want to see Ozzie coaching first base. And Ozzie's like, "I don't have to coach first base. I already paid my dues. I can be doing TV and content and being at home golfing. I already did what I had to do for the game. Like, I don't have to put that time in." And guys like Jon Heyman have a really hard time with that. So it's like he was just really upset, and he said, "You know what? Let's just duke it out." And so I won't get arrested. But the funny thing is, anytime John sees Ozzie, he ducks, and they have mutual friends. So the funny thing is that they got people say, "Hey, go tell John this," because it's to the point that it is personal. Ozzie can be talking about, there could be anything. Ozzie says something, John jumps on it, and that's just the reality of it. He was the only person that denied that Ozzie was interviewing with the Padres when Ozzie was interviewing with the Padres. Okay, so he goes out. Well, he goes out of his way to do things like that. And again, when you're a player, when you're a manager, when you're just anybody, you understand that people are going to critique you because that's something that comes with the game. But you draw a line and say, "Hey, now it's getting personal. Like, now you're crossing the line. Like, you have definitely a vendetta versus me." So that's why Ozzie said, "You know what, John, let's just do this." Obviously, John did not accept because it would have been a really good fundraiser.
Oh, that would have been amazing. And I love the fact that Ozzie challenged him. I mean, I'm not surprised John turned it down.
No,
but,
not at all.
I love Ozzie's personality. I always have, and I thought that would be great for charity. I would love to see it, more power to him. And I think he should be a manager. I'm kind of shocked, and I've said this for a while. I don't know how he's not a manager of a team somewhere in baseball, but at least he's, working for NBC Sports Chicago and, had a lot to do with the pre and post game for the White Sox. I think that's a good fit for him as well.
Well,
so he loves doing TV.
Ozzie Jr., let me ask you a question. I hopefully I'm correct on this. So was your dad with the White Sox when Michael Jordan was there?
He was. He actually just told a story on Michael.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to ask you. Like, I'm jealous of your dad because he spent all that time with Michael, and then he made Michael buy the whole team beer. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's probably one of the million things that he made Michael do. I think Ozzy and Michael have known each other for a long time. Michael and Ozzy basically get to Chicago at the same time, have a lot of mutual friends, so a nice relationship. So when Michael comes over to baseball, I think that Michael talking about proving themselves, right off the bat, Ozzy's like, if you're going to be with the big league team as a captain, like, you're not going to come here and this is not going to be fake. It's not going to be like you just doing this for show. And Michael obviously put his work in, but Ozzy wanted to treat him like how Michael wanted to be treated, like a guy that he was just trying to make a team. Mm-hmm. And it was Ray Durham and Mike Cameron were also rookies. And he said, hey, man, you got to go get beers with the rookies. You can't sit on the bus if I'm making the other rookies get it. You're a rookie. I think that's a good story. The other best story I think that he did not share is that Ozzy had a Nike deal at the time. And I guess Ozzy was trying to get some shoes. Again, this is in the 90s. Guys didn't get a lot of stuff back then as they do now. And a couple of the players were like, they're trying to get cleats and whatnot. And Michael obviously was there. Michael had a bunch. And Ozzy said, "Oh, we don't. How much power? We thought you owe Nike. You can't get us anything. You're not a real Nike guy. You got no power." And Ozzy's just riding him like the whole day, like, "Oh, it's all talk with you and Nike." And the next day, everybody in the clubhouse had like 10 shoes deep. Okay, wow. Everybody was like, everybody had like decked out. And he goes, "That's for you, Ozzy. So you don't talk so much, crap." But that's the type. And that's the type of relationship they have. And it's funny because, again, they've had this weird relationship where, there's a pickup story basketball game of him and Joy Cora versus Michael Jordan, and which is famous here in Chicago, that Michael destroyed them after they went up 5-0 just because they knew that Ozzy and Mike and Joy would be on every newspaper talking about how they had beat Michael. But again, I think that those are things that Ozzy, when people look at him, he lived so many things as a player, okay, that now he could, he can transcend that. He transcended as a manager. Now he does it as a media guy where, if you're comfortable enough to be able to treat Michael Jordan like a regular player at the time, knowing his status, knowing who he was, it tells you a lot about who Ozzy is. And I think Michael loved that because he just saw him as, you're just a player. You're just a guy here. We know you're Michael Jordan, like, of course, but you're going to be here. You're going to put the work in. I think I actually made the relationship a lot better in the years to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's a great story. I mean, I honestly didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
I can't believe I knew something that you didn't know, JP.
There's a lot.
Dude, there's a lot. There's Michael beating my grandfather at pool, probably the greatest pool player we've ever seen. My grandfather's a very good pool player, hustler. Destroyed my grandfather in pool after my grandfather had beat him like 8 games in a row. There's a substantial amount of money on the table.
The law of averages, eventually he was going to beat him.
No, he was hustling. No, he was hustling him. There's a lot of money, and my grandfather told my dad, he's hustling me. And they're like, no, keep putting money in. And they're like, oh, he's hustling me. And then when the money was at the right, Michael said, your dad won't touch the stick again. And he didn't. And he put every ball in and took his money.
But Michael Jordan.
Everybody know Michael do that all the time because he did it with the Chicago Bulls, where he would pay the guy to bring the luggage to come up, which luggage will come up first in the airport, and Michael will pay the guy about $500 and win like $10,000 off of it. So Michael's competing in everything that he does. That's why he's great.
Playing chess. He's playing chess. Everybody out there is playing checkers. But again, those are the fun things that people like to see Ozzy on TV, because he was able to do it. And I think fans are very lucky. They get Ozzy and Frank Thomas. Not a lot of players, a lot of teams get to have two of the greatest players to play in a generation as a pre and post game show. So again, I think that it's great. They enjoy it. And when I don't think Ozzy's better in the game. If an opportunity comes again to manage, I think that he would talk to any team. I just don't think that it's something that he sits there and desires like he did before he was a manager. Obviously, he would love to, because every time you manage, you get a shot at a ring. But his job on TV, he loves it. He tries to get better at it every day. And it's funny because he laughs because he's like, I'm doing what these guys are deemed geniuses. I'm doing their job, but they couldn't do my 2 former jobs. I'm on my 4th career.
That's true. I mean, and he's got a great personality for it. So that's kind of cool. He's already, gotten to the pinnacle. He won the World Series as a manager. So I would imagine managing it, although he loves baseball, he's still talking about it. So it's not like he's away from the game, sitting at home like some other guys where they, if they didn't have a job, there'd be nothing to do.
Man, you know what? I think in this generation of sports, I think that we are victims of our own society and moment. Okay, I think that the generations before were so into history and what people accomplished. I think now a guy gets to play a professional sport and they deem him a bust because he wasn't as great as a Hall of Famer. Well, when you look at the percentages, somebody just making it to that level, in my eyes, you're not a bust. You're playing like a game that is played by 1 or 2% across the leagues. If you go up and you're not deemed, then you're not a Hall of Famer. For example, Tatis, you're deemed a bust. Okay, if you only win one championship in your run, you're deemed a fraud. Every player's story is going to be different. Not everyone can be Tom. Not everyone can be Michael. Not everyone, they're going to have those special guys.
But have the role
when
player.
Media, yeah, I know. When you have media, people say, "Oh, well, Ozzy's career is a failure because it wasn't 40 years as a manager, or so and so's was this." It's very hard, man, because you can't say that. You don't know what players go through, what managers go through. The fact that they've gotten to that level, okay, of being a manager, being the first Hispanic manager to win it. Like, those are accomplishments that regardless of what happens later, it's like that person's there. Like, if you're the first professional of anything, professional sport from your hometown, you're that for the rest of your life. Like, no one knows how hard it is for you to get to that level. So everyone now just sees the success. They see, oh, I got a YouTube channel. This guy's got a YouTube channel. He's got 50,000 followers. Oh, whatever. He sucks. It's like, well, really? Does he really suck? He's got 50,000 followers. So obviously he's not that bad. He's got people listening to him. So the fact that you put in all that work, the end product, if we don't like it, we throw it down. We don't respect it. I think that's something in our society today we do across sports that we don't, obviously we sit there and we critique it, but you kind of have to sit back and say, you got to give credit where credit's due, because a lot of these guys put a lot of work in.
Well, I mean,
go ahead,
I do want to talk about what you had mentioned about, your dad not coaching for 40 years, not being a manager for 40 years or something like that. I mean, what people don't take into consideration is you both have played sports, you both have coached sports, you've done all that. Your dad, Ozzy, obviously managed and played. Like, what people don't take into consideration is there are times where players or coaches say, hey, I want to go have family time. Like, George, you have kids. Like, maybe your dad, Ozzy, was like, hey, like, I have family. I have a son. Like, I want to spend time with them. Like, now's the time I feel is right to go and spend time with my kids or my wife or whatever. Like, people don't, none of us are behind the curtain. So we don't know what happens whenever it comes to their personal lives, when it comes to family. And that stuff is very important. I'm a family man. I have kids and a wife. So, like, I understand, like, you got to put that. That's ultimately what most of these managers, players care about first, is they care about their family, and they're going to do what's best for them and their family. So if they say, hey, like, I need to step away from the game because I need to take care of my kids, like, we don't see that, but that is a big factor. And so I just think I wanted to point that out.
It happens in the NFL when guys, we want guys to play 100 years, and it's more because of their physical body. They want to be able to have a normal life later on and not be in pain. In baseball, when it comes to managers and coaches, so when you're a manager, your stress levels are ridiculous, okay? Most guys leave the game because it's just very stressful. Families are like, you got to, and it's the same across any sport, professionally coaching, college and major and professional sports. For Ozzy, that today, for us, the boys, my two brothers and myself, Ozzy was never like that. We understood the business. We knew that he had to work. We grew up in that world, not a normal world, a very circus-like world. My kids, though, his grandkids, have changed Ozzy in that perspective completely, the other way. Why? Because he's doing things on a day-by-day basis, which he wasn't able to do before. So on a July date, 4th of July, he wants to go to a water park with them. He doesn't have to worry about that. Oh, my God, I got to be at the ballpark at 1 p.m. for a 7 o'clock game. He's just at the water park, okay? So when you're looking at it, and he just played golf that morning, when you're looking at quality of life, and when you say, have I paid my dues for the game? Ozzy's been offered about 4 coaching jobs, one of them being with his really good friend, Bochy, with the San Diego, with the Giants before he left.
Bruce Bochy.
And Bochy was like, Ozzy said, hey, I need to make $1 million. And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, I need to make $1 million. He goes, you're going to be the highest paid coach. You might be making more than the manager. And he goes, Bochy, that's what I need to leave home. And he's like, why? He goes, Bochy, I make X amount of money on TV. Okay, I sleep at home every single night. I show up at work at 5:00, put a suit on, talk baseball. I go home. I do everything else with my kids. I get vacations in the summer. Why would I give that up to spend? I know what it takes to be a coach and to be a good one, because if I do it, I'm going to be the best. I need to be there for spring training, before spring training. I need to be there backing you up. I need to be there with you on the road, late nights. So when it comes to it, it's like, if I really want to do it, I'm going to do it because I really want to coach. It will never be because of the money, but I need to get compensated for it. So it's like, yeah, I want to be the boss and I want to be the manager, because people don't realize this. When you're the manager, you work, but it's different. When you're a coach, your job is to make the players better. So you're there for them. So if someone wants to go take ground balls at 9 a.m, you got to go do ground balls at 9 a.m. Okay, so that type of, people don't get that Ozzy, for him, when people are like, why is he not in uniform? It's like, he's at a point of his life where, number one, he enjoys the TV, he enjoys the media part of it, and he has a life of comfort that he's never had before when he's not on the road. And even for TV, he did ESPN for 7 years, where he was going every Sunday to Connecticut, trying to build that resume, so when the job in Chicago opened up, he'd be considered. So that's something that people don't think about. Like, guys are doing jobs after their post-career to try to get better to a place where they can live in, because these guys have been traveling for so long. But again, yeah, for Ozzy, the family perspective is a huge one. And one that most people don't get, for like Tony La Russa, the number one thing when Tony took the job, I said, why? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, I don't think, number one, Tony needs the money. Okay, number two, he definitely doesn't need a legacy. He's a Hall of Famer already. And number three, like he don't want to spend time with his family. Like, he's going to be completely away from them, because he don't mix both of them. So I was like, he really wants to manage and really wants to win and really believes in his team. For him to say, oh, I'm going to go manage at his age, he don't got no 40 years left that he can go spend with his family. For him being away from his family because he's with the game, you're taking away time from someone that you care about. That's the hardest part in the game. The older that you get in, and you see these guys coaching, and they've been coaching along, like, they've dedicated a lot to the game, whichever game that is that they're in. That's a sacrifice that comes to somebody, usually their family.
Oh,
George,
really
can you talk a little bit about that as well? From your end, because you I'm sure dealt with a little bit of that too.
Yeah, so I would say, when you're a professional athlete, you can be married, have kids, and try to be the best husband, the best father you can. But most of the time, your teammates are more family to you than your actual family. You're with them more hours of the day than anyone else. So it gets, as the years get long, people start to drift away from their families. Go and listen to Bill Parcells' Hall of Fame speech. Go listen to the guy that coached at Dallas, Jimmy Johnson. Look at all the birthdays they missed, all the stuff that they had to miss in order to be a coach. Andy Reid losing sons because of not being there as a father. So when you play professional sports, you can't be a great coach, a great husband, and a great father. Something has to give, and most of the time it is the family. And most athletes would tell you, I can remember when I was playing, guys wouldn't even want to go home. They wouldn't even want to go home because the atmosphere around the locker room was just that enjoyable. You didn't want to go home, because once you go home, your wife probably says, I've been doing this all day. Can you do this now? Can you do that? And most people,
I know that feeling.
Yeah, most people don't want to do that. So I mean, it is, people don't understand how hard it is for people, coaches like Ozzy, to do that job, to be a player and then coach it for a long time, man. He missed a lot of time with Junior and his siblings. I know he had to, because you can't do those jobs half. You got to be all in when you're doing them. And most people in the public don't understand why these guys are overweight, why they're always having health problems, because the stress level is out of this world. It's not enough time, enough hours in the day to even prepare for most of the games, because they're constantly trying to figure out, how can I stop Tom Brady? How can I stop Peyton Manning? That's all they're thinking about. They'll forget, oh, it was my anniversary with my wife today. Totally forget about it. Because
Ozzy had a rule. Ozzy in spring training would put his a date on the whiteboard. And people would be like, the players were like, what's that day? And they're like, that's the only thing I can't forget. And it was his anniversary because he had missed it 2 years in a row when he had forgotten, because it's usually during spring training. And he would have the players and say, your only job this spring training is to remind me of that date. I don't care what you guys forget every other date. Remind me of that day before it happens, because it's already happening. And my family is addicted to baseball. The 3 boys, we love it. My mom, Ozzy's still married to my mother. So people, when she talks about him going back to the game and her being like, I don't want him to go back to the game unless it's worth it to him. They've been married since Ozzy was 16 years old. She was with him from 16, till he was a baseball player. So all those years on the road, living in all those different places. We're very lucky that he had a long stint in Chicago.
That's quite.
So she lived that life. And then she goes into coaching. So he goes into coaching Montreal, the Marlins. She gave him 6 years and says, in 6 years, you're not in the big leagues. If you're not a big league manager, you're done. Kind of like going to college for him. And he did it, and he got there. And then obviously he couldn't quit at that point. And then she did another 8 years of him managing. And in the 8 years of managing, which is something people didn't realize this, if you think playing, and coaching takes your life to another level, no. When you're managing, you enter this whole world of atmosphere of stress, especially if you're like Ozzy, media, pressure, what people are saying now with Google and social media. When you become obsessed with the game, and Ozzy would become obsessed with the game, like you win, but you're not happy because something bad happened. You lose, you're not happy. And most, it's funny because I know you guys love Ozzy. Most of the times when Ozzy would go off on the media, it wasn't even because of what the media person asked him. It was because he was mad about something that had happened prior to that day, and he had been pissed about it for 3 days, and he just lashed out at the media. And that's the levels of stress where you have to start learning how to deal with it. And Ozzy, at 8 years, you could really see that it was starting to get to him, gets burned out. So like when you see the difference of the person in that world, you're like, okay, if I'm going to get back into this, you're like, when he got interviewed with the Padres, we put as a family the pros and the cons of like, there's a lot of pros, including a World Series ring, which we all love. And, it's the trophy we all cherish for, but there's a lot of negatives. And what's going to happen if you don't win the ring? And what happens if you do win the ring? And what does that look like? Because if you want people to love you, don't put the uniform on. You put the uniform on, John Madden can come back from the dead. He takes the Raiders and they go 0-10. The first 10 games, they'll deem him the worst coach of all time. We'll be here talking about how bad he is. That happens in all
short-term memory.
So short-term memory. So you have to deal with that stress where you're going into your kids are going into school, now your grandkids, and everybody's like, oh, your granddaddy sucks. You're going to the grocery store, and everybody's like, this guy's horrible. Because Ozzy went through that cycle of no one wanted him in Chicago, and then time heals all. And now people are like, I'll come back into coaching. So when you really look at that, I think when these guys take the opportunity and you see guys that come back that have been coaching for a long time, that take a step back, like John, for example, you're like, man, why is this guy doing this? Especially when you do something out on the road, being there, coaching, being on the field, it's hard. It's not easy.
No, I definitely understand. And, I want to say I love the fact that, your dad's a great family man. That to me is important. One of the reasons I love working with George, love working with John, our whole group here.
I'm glad you finally admitted it.
Last thing before I let you go, because I only asked you for like 15 minutes, and I appreciate you spending all this time with us. It's been a lot of fun. So the White Sox are 2 games back. I know you're pretty close to the team. What do they have to do to win the American League Central? Can it be done? And, are you shocked to see the Guardians in front right now?
I'm not shocked to see the Guardians. I call them the peekaboo team. I like the Guardians because no one knows how good they are. They got a lot of talent. I don't think that anyone took them serious. There's nothing more dangerous than a team that believes in themselves. I don't take their names
serious.
Yeah, their name's not serious. But again, when you have a team that no one believes in them, it's a very dangerous team, because when you got guys in a locker room or a team that believe in themselves, it's very dangerous. It reminds me a lot of the 03 Marlins, 2005 White Sox, where no one
reminds me of the 2022 Orioles.
2022 Orioles, very dangerous team. You don't want to play the Orioles. Are they going to win the World Series? No. But they will ruin somebody's year, okay?
I want to ruin JB's year. He's a Yankee fan. I really want that. Yes.
By the way, the Yankees fans right now, they're 3-11 in the last couple games. You can only win so many games in a regular season. They're so panicking.
Exactly.
The Yankees and the Mets. I cannot wait. I cannot wait till playoff baseball starts because Yankee fans and Mets fans are going to be up for a rude awakening. We'll wait for playoff baseball.
I love this guy. By the way, I love this guy.
But I've
what
said
he
it from
just
the beginning
said.
of the year. The Yankees aren't winning the World Series. I know this already. I'm not.
They're a great team. No, but here's the thing. They're going to get
a great
in.
regular season team.
Well, they'll get in, and here comes to the White Sox part. You get in. Any league that you're in, your goal is to make the playoffs. Okay, there's a couple teams that are like, we need to go to the big one. The Patriots of the world, the Yankees of the world, where it's like you're not in the World Series.
Chiefs.
You're not.
Everyone
good.
else is like, once we get in, we'll see what happens.
Everyone else is like, guys, if we get to the playoffs, we made our year. Anything after that is gravy. We obviously want to go for the big one, but the playoff is the goal. That's where the White Sox are at. That's where the Orioles are at. That's where everyone in the MLB is at, pretty much. The Mariners have never won a World Series. They can't even think about going there. Like, you need to get into the playoffs first. Let's win a series. So with the White Sox, it has not been a perfect year for them. And they're listening to the media, and there's guys that are having horrendous seasons. Tony at times has not been the greatest manager, but no season is perfect. They're mathematically in a reachable position to make the playoffs, either win the division or win the wild card. So you have two chances of getting in. They just need to focus on playing solid baseball and working with what they have. They can't say, oh, we did not win because Tim Anderson is hurt. You got to be able to just do it without Tim. If Eloy goes down tomorrow, they got to do it without Eloy. Anything that happens from this moment until the end of the season, you cannot sit back and say, we did not make it because so-and-so. You have to be able to grind it all the way out. If you do that, you give yourself the best chance. They might win every game from now on, but so might the Guardians. For them to do that, they need to be playing solid baseball and be able to do the little things, not hit 8 home runs in one game. It's what do I do in the next play? They've been such a good team at times, but they get beat by their own. If I was going to compare them to football, they try to hit a Hail Mary in every single play. Run the ball a couple times. Get a couple yards here, hit a couple yards there.
Marshawn Lynch.
A touchdown is a touchdown. From a baseball perspective, your goal is to win the game. How you win the game, it doesn't matter. They want to win the game, hitting 8 home runs, driving it. They need to just win the game. If they are able to just focus on that, they'll win the division. If they don't win the division, though, they're going to have to do a big wake-up call to see if this team's the right mix. Them and the Padres are very unique because they have a lot of players in their rosters that are very good. But if they don't go deep into the playoffs or they miss the playoffs, you have to start thinking about, is this the right roster? Do I need to move a key piece? It might bring a better 2 or 3 guys that might fit better in my roster than having the superstar player. That's when you really have to have a really good GM and have a really good gut check and say, which the White Sox have in the past, when Kenny Williams and Ozzie Guillen in 2004 said, Ozzie, I don't think that we have the right mix. And he said, I don't think so either. We've lost 5 years in a row to second place. We need to change it up. And they moved a couple big players, and a better team came, and that worked for them. I think that if they don't make the playoffs, that's the situation that they're in.
That's funny because that could be a Chicago thing. Not only the White Sox, but it could be the Bears, right, JB? I mean, if you get rid of
the Bears are in the same situation right now than the White Sox are in, which I hope that is not true. They counted. They thought that they were closer than they were because they had one good year. They all went nuts, and they said Super Bowl the next year. They all jumped on the ship. Okay, they went and got Khalil Mack just like the White Sox did. They had one good year, COVID season, one good year, and then they were like, oh, we're ready for the World Series. And they went in deep. So now, if you're not ready, you might have to take a couple steps back because
it wasn't even a good year. Like they went 8-8 and they backed into the playoffs because the Cardinals fell apart.
In Chicago terms, I think they bought into the media hype, and that's when you're a player or you're someone in the media, you can't listen to that. Back to Tatis. Tatis cannot sit there right now and be on Instagram, be on Twitter, be on TV. Why? Everything's negative, what he's listening to right now. He can't be listening to that stuff. Just like when stuff's positive, you have to be able to stay normal and be able to stay the course because this game is going to give you ups and downs. And if you try to ride those ups and downs, you might get caught in one of those, and not be able to come back or come back down. So you need to be able to stay the course. Good teams do that. Great front offices and better players do that because if you try riding that wave in a regular season, you're going to have a great game where you do all the scoring and you make every single play, you hit the game-winning home run, and you're going to have the game where, you're going to struggle. You struck out 5 times. Like, it happens. It's the in reality of it, especially in 162.
No, I definitely agree, Ozzie. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on. Tell everyone about the YouTube channel before you go.
Hey, Gian Baseball. So we're on social media in Gian's Baseball on Instagram and Twitter, but everything that we do content-wise, like if there's something that happens, any news across sports, we'll go on there and we'll give our opinion. We'll drop a note on what we think about it, try to give some explanation on the – actually been awesome because it was a very professional show in the sense that George knows a lot because he's a former player of like the rules that happen in the background. Our goal is to try to give that inside look to fans where you're just out there just kind of making crazy comments and you don't even know how it works. You know, a suspension or a signing of a contract, or I had a big one last year of a player deciding between two teams. You're going to, and you know, fans don't understand why the person would take more money. You know, it's like, this is what these guys do for a living. This is how you get paid. So that's what our show, that's what the YouTube channel is for. We upload things there. Ozzy's on there giving all his content. So if you like baseball and you like honest, you know, straight up cut, you know, truth, check us out.
Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time. You know, you can definitely give us a follow at Sideline Sports 1. I've been scrolling across the bottom the whole time. George, where can everybody find you?
At www.thepresenddad.com.
Make sure you go into that website and buy in that book. Follow at BlueHawks13 as he was speaking when I really paid attention to John this week. We didn't even get to his topic, which we're going to bring back next week with Jake. But that was the show for tonight. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Make sure you check it out all 7 days a week worth of Sideline Sports. We got a bunch of good stuff coming on. Later, Confidential. No White Sox show yet. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, we got Ozzy here. We're going to have to figure that one out. Have a good night, guys.
See you guys.